Yesterday we were doing the field research on horchata, and when I made the first batch of horchata, it turned out tasting like water with like a little bit of cinnamon thrown in, and I was like, oh, this is just not delicious. I'm not loving this. So we went and got a cup of restaurant horchata, and by the end of the day, we made something miraculous. I think you're gonna love it. So instead of using white rice, we're gonna use brown rice. Now there's a whole bunch of different kinds of brown rice. There's short grain, long grain, and then there's basmati rice, it's got like a sweeter, kind of buttery, nutty flavor to it. And I really like using that because kind of has that yum factor to it. You know, you've got brown rice, but then you got basmati rice. Smells like popcorn, tastes like butter. It's great. So just put that in the blender, and with your grains, same with your beans. With your grains, it's really important to soak them before you use them. Several reasons. First of all, if you can germinate or start to sprout your grains before you use them, the nutrient value goes way up. So regular grains, just cooked, has nutrient value here. Once you sprout them or germinate them, the nutrient value goes way up. So you're improving how much nutrient is actually in the food, and also by soaking them, you're improving how much nutrient you can get out of the food because it becomes way more digestible once you soak it. So yes. Do you soak it for the same amount of time? So the grains I soak for 24 hours, and then you rinse it and drain it. And it just depends on the size of the grain or the size of the bean. So like, for instance, if you have amaranth, which is a really, really small grain, you're not going to soak it for as long as, kamut, which is a big grain. So the rice, I just soak it overnight, basically, with the rice. And so we're just going to add that to the blender with enough water to fill it up. And guess what else? This is raw. It's not cooked. I tried making it with cooked rice, and didn't work out so well. It kind of got all gooey and clumpy. And as I was looking up how traditional cultures make horchata, they don't cook their rice. They just sprout it and make it with the raw, uncooked rice. So this is germinated and it's raw. We're just going to take it. Let's see. This over. Can you guys see? No? Now I've got a nut milk bag. You can also use cheesecloth, just like with a strainer with cheesecloth in it, but the nut milk bag makes my life easier. Just like so. So this is exactly like making almond milk. I've done a demonstration in a previous class how to make almond milk. You can do the same thing. You just soak almonds, rinse them and drain them, and then blend them up just like that, and then sift it through a nut milk bag, and you have almond milk. So basically the same idea, just using rice instead of almonds. This is a precarious picture. Do you have a big bowl or something? Oh, can you dump out that? This is gonna make a mess. Thank you. All right, well, there. That's gonna work way better. Okay, so all you do is put it in the bag and squeeze it. Isn't that pretty? Looks like skim milk, which is what they use in horchata at the restaurants. Now, because this has a higher bran content in it, because it's brown rice, it takes a little while longer to drain, but it's well worth the effort. Yes? It depends on which grain you use. If you're using a glutinous grain, such as wheat or barley or oats or kamut or spelt, I'm trying to think of the other glutinous grains, then you do need to use an acid because the acid helps to break down the gluten. If you're using a non-glutinous grain such as rice, millet, buckwheat, quinoa, trying to think of what other non-glutinous grains there are. So if it's that, then you can just soak it in water if you want, and you don't have to add the acid into it. Because the non-glutinous grains are much more easily digested by themselves just because they don't have the gluten in them. Now, for my classes, I try to stay away from the glutinous grains. I stay away from wheat completely because what's happened in the last 50 years is wheat has been genetically modified to have a higher gluten content in it, and that makes it so the breads are lighter and fluffier, and they more easily react to the yeast and stuff like that. So there's like 50% or more additional gluten in wheat products than there originally was, like before they started genetically modifying all the wheat. So for instance, there's a lot of people in the United States that can't have any gluten. They're just told, like, they have gluten intolerance, but if they go to a different country that hasn't hybridized their wheat and hasn't modified it so that it has a higher gluten content, like if you go to Italy, they have like the original form of wheat that hasn't been tampered with, and people with wheat allergies can actually eat wheat in different countries. But just because America has messed with the wheat so much and tampered with the gluten content, that's what's causing a lot of the allergies to wheat and gluten products. Okay. So I'm not going to make you watch me squeeze out the rest of that, but if you're patient, you can squeeze out the rest of that, milk, and then we're just going to, where's the other Vitamix blender? Or rinse that out, sorry. Any questions? Yes? Yes, yeah. So the recipe will indicate all the exact measurements you need, and then just like all the other recipes, I'll tell you just the basic measurements and how to do it. And then, like, let's say it's not sweet enough for you, add a little more honey. If it's not salty enough for you, add a little more salt. But I'll have all the basic measurements in there. So what I just did it with was 1 cup of basmati brown rice, 6 cups water. Thank you so much. And so that's what I start out as a basic measurement, and then you can just alter it from there. So after you strain it out, you just add it back into the blender, and you can see that it's a nice, beautiful rice milk. And this is full of, brown rice is full of your B vitamins and lots of other great minerals, and especially after you germinate it, it's got a lot of nutrition content in there. So to make it, usually in regular horchata, they add a little bit of cream in there to make it creamy. So instead of that, we're just going to add a little bit of soaked cashews to give it that creaminess instead of cream. Splashing. We're going to add a little bit of vanilla. This is like 2 tablespoons of vanilla, about a tablespoon of cinnamon, some raw local honey, and there's going to be like a half of a cup of raw local honey, depending on how sweet you like it. And in traditional cultures around the world, raw honey and cinnamon, the combination of those, has been used as a tonic and a cure for lots of diseases around the world. So anytime you can mix the combination of raw honey and cinnamon together, it's going to benefit your health in a lot of different ways. And that's it. So really the hard part is squeezing the milk out of the, filtering the rice bran out of that. But other than that, it's just, throw some rice in water overnight and put everything in a blender and blend. And aside from squeezing the fiber out, like, that's the hard part. And this is super easy to make. And we're gonna blend. And then we're going to serve it over ice because that's the way they do it in the Mexican restaurants. So that's the way we're going to do it here. It's always better a little bit chilled. So this makes a really creamy, it's like creamy. Did you guys taste it? Yeah. What do you think? Do you love it? I don't have to give you a description then. You've got it in your mouth. All right. There's that for the photo shoot.